Good afternoon, world. It is moments past noon in Waxahachie, Texas, deep in the heart of the Lone Star State. Today is the 27th of May, and this is episode number 65 of Grit and Good News. And we're broadcasting, as we always do, live from our palatial studios in the shadows of the historic Ellis County Courthouse. And I am your co-host, Jeff Lynch. At our board is our man, Sam Brooks. That's always got the good finger there. And it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce my host, your friend, Scott Brooks.
Thank you, brother. Looking awful colorful today, as
Thank you.
usual. I'm in my Johnny Cash black. Sammy's in his, I guess I passed for Alabama red, Alabama crimson. Yeah.
Got the
and-
new look with the zipper instead of the
yeah, he's
buttons
looking
up
good,
front.
isn't he? Yeah, for
It's
sure.
way cooler than I could ever be.
Before we get into this, I want to tell you that our show is brought to you by Elite Wheel Repair out of Red Oak, and it's about 10 minutes up the road. If you need work done for top tier wheel repair without big city hassles, look for Elite Wheel Repair. Fast, professional, always polite. Elite is the quiet gym just miles from your driveway, whether it's powder coating, bent, or dent repair, which Sammy needs badly, custom color rims, or even a on-site mobile service. Elite has it all. So we want to thank them for being our sponsor today. And please, if you have any needs for your wheels, visit them. So welcome. It is Tuesday. We're going to spend this whole week saying, wait a minute, I thought today was Monday. Oh well. Hey, Beverly. Hey, Terry. Welcome. Glad to have both of you here. But welcome after a rather tumultuous weather-wise Memorial Day, wasn't it? You were just talking about that. You were up at the lake,
Yeah.
Cedar
Creek
Lake.
about an
Yeah.
hour and 5 minutes east of here. And boy, it came like
down, yeah.
crazy. And boy, our dog, she does not cotton to storms at all.
You know what's interesting? We have two little Chihuahuas that are a year apart, both of them males. And the one that is most aggressive is the one who is the most afraid of storms. The one who is least aggressive, although he can be, is the one who he's like sitting on a beach somewhere. He doesn't budge. He loves being under the covers, but he doesn't budge. And it was constant. It seemed yesterday and Sunday night. Sammy was going to go up to Salina to visit his sister who's moved down here. He decided not to because of the weather.
And we got another big round of it
All week.
yesterday, about 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's more to come. So, but we hope you had a Memorial Day, a special Memorial Day. Is always good to have a 3-day weekend. We're going to talk about Memorial Day in here in just a minute. Thank you for being here today on Grit and Good News. We're live every Tuesday and Thursday, noon to 1 o'clock Texas time, which is Central Time. We talk about a lot of different things. We don't always have the same opinions, which is the value of a show and discourse. So it's that old saying: if
If it
two
ain't
people
fixed, don't
always
broke.
if two people always agree, only one of them is needed.
Right.
Yeah. So
When you talk about Central Time, it just randomly thought came in my head, and that's I have some mixed feelings about our president. He got my vote. I like what he's doing. His overreach has just been spectacular, and I say that not in a complimentary fashion. You know what he hasn't messed with, and I don't think he's going to.
what's that?
Time zones.
Yeah. Well, he's going to mess with. I would say it's not necessarily him, but there have been a push for a long time to get rid of daylight savings time, which really, when you think about it, I used to think those that made a big deal about daylight savings time they were kind of petty and silly. Now, as I've grown older, it makes sense that I don't know, what do we do that for? Just let it be the same all year round.
It was originally an ag deal, but you know what? It's the same amount of
we've
hours.
outgrown that,
right?
Yeah. So, but we'll have to have this.
Because we're such an ag-driven society now, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So today's 65th episode. What do you got in terms of numbers?
Well, as we've been talking about, as we've been getting through these mid-60s, it's slim pickings. It really is. In the National Football League, we did have the greatness of Elvin Bethea.
Kansas City Chiefs?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we had Gary Zimmerman, a very capable lineman for the
Zimmerman.
Vikings for
Yeah.
a long time. And I didn't see much else that I was interested in sharing.
No other 65 comes to mind.
Yeah, and then I was telling you how Major League Baseball has been slim pickings, but I'll go to a few years here and I'll see 250 or 260 people that had that number and go through how many of them just have had only one. Now we're down to 169,
Yeah.
and almost all of them are 1 year and out. I scroll through, I don't know any of these
Yeah,
guys.
right. Yeah, well, it's going to be that way until we get to whenever we stop doing it.
Okay, now I do have one that you should like, and it goes to your Pittsburgh days.
Yeah.
Penguin defenseman won the Norris Trophy for best defenseman 3 times.
No,
He's got a last name that is either Swedish or Finnish. I
it doesn't
think
ring a
it's
bell.
Eric, Erik Carlson.
Yeah, it still didn't ring a bell.
That's all I got for you.
Interesting. All right. Well, with respect to hockey and NBA, we're down to, as we talked about before, down to the final four. We've got, I think OKC, who Sammy's not pulling for, which disappoints me. Put the choke hold on Minnesota last night. Now they're up 3-1, and they
What was
come
the?
back to Oklahoma City.
I saw part of that game at Minnesota.
Yeah,
With I guess two of them.
yeah.
So it must have been game
Game three
3.
was a 42-point blowout.
Yeah, I saw that bouncing between 30 and 40.
That was ridiculous. And then last night was a good game. I mean, it was the Thunder that were winning
Yeah.
bigger than the final score indicated, because the final score was like 128, 126, something like that. But it was a very good game. And then of course we had Carolina, who's down 3-0 to the Florida Panthers in the NHL, came back and
And you
won.
know who got the first goal in that game?
Was it that little dude? Yeah, he can
Stankonen,
play.
who was part of our 5-for-1 for Miro the Hero.
Really, he can play. I
Yeah,
mean, he reminds me of our number 64, Granlund.
Granlund
Yeah.
and,
Uh,
and Wyatt Johnson, 53.
yeah.
Those little guys. And I tell you, I still think it was a good trade. Anytime you get two, we gave up a lot.
Yeah.
It was nice for Carolina. They
Yeah.
got
Well,
two firsts, 2/3
look,
in Stankonen.
when you're
But
down 3-0, which you don't come back from that very often, although the Mavericks did it, I think, in 2011, didn't they? When they won the championship, Sammy? Weren't they down at 3-0 to Miami and came back and won? The Mavericks in
you mean
2011.
3-1,
Was it 3-1?
not 3-0. Was it?
Has it? I don't think it's ever been a 3-0.
I don't
No, they
know.
said the other day nobody in the
Well, so now, we have the Carolina. I'm telling you, Carolina. What do they call Hurricane? Can just one game at a time. Now they go back to Carolina. They got to win that game. Obviously, they got to win all of them. But then they go back to Florida. They've proven they can win there. If they win that one, then they go back to Carolina. It can be done.
This is an old riddle from the days before we were too concerned about gender equality and important issues like that. And it was, you know, why hurricanes have always been called named after men.
Oh,
Otherwise, they'd have to call them. They're always named. They're always named after women.
yeah,
Otherwise, they'd have to call them hurricanes.
Hurricane.
Boom.
Yeah, a good one. Don't give up your day job. All right, so then in the NBA, we've got tonight. Well, back to hockey. Let me start with hockey. We got the Stars playing in Edmonton for Game 4. And if the
Nicely at
Stars, let
7
me say,
o'clock.
I mean, if the Stars don't wake up, they're going to get.
2-1.
They're down 2-1. They got beat 6-1 the other day. I mean, it's ridiculous.
After getting 21 shots on goal in the second period and only getting one by.
Yeah,
That hurt.
it's ridiculous. So they got to step it up. They got to come home. They need to come home.
They have to.
2-2, or it's
Absolutely.
over. I think. I should say that because I don't think it's over with Carolina. The eternal optimist in me. And then we've got in the NBA, we've got the Knicks, and the Pacers. Sammy's, who are you pulling for?
The
Knicks?
Pacers. You gotta
Sammy,
give
you
it.
you
Just
lost your dang
no.
mind.
Just because you don't like Tyrese,
I can't stand Tyrese
But you
Halliburton.
gotta
Well,
give them their
you said
flowers.
who are you pulling for, not who you're predicting.
No,
when
he's
you s-
predicting. He predicted the
Knicks.
Knicks. So am I. But
But
I
you're
don't.
pulling for the Pacers.
Yeah.
So
You can pull for who you're not predicting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Pacers beat the Cavs, beat the Bucks,
Yeah,
Bucks
well,
and Cavs, and now might
we'll
beat the
see.
Knicks.
We'll
So.
see tonight. That's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Terry's worried about the Stars. I am too, Terry. They didn't show up the other night, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. Did you know the Carolina Hurricane, Rod Brendamore, his record in Eastern Conference Finals? Do you know what his record was until the other night?
Was it 7-0?
0-9.
0-9.
DeBoer in Game 7 is the one who's
It's
got the,
7, no,
but 0-9.
Mm.
And that last night was the first time the Carolina, or yesterday was whenever they played, was the first time they won an Eastern Conference final since like decades ago. It's crazy. Uh, so what do we got? Rangers. I'm not going to talk about the Rangers because they're ticking me off. I mean, they're a good baseball team, should be, and they've lost. They got swept by the Yankees, swept
2,
almost by the White
they're
Sox.
2-8 in the last 10.
And then, they beat Toronto and then lose to Toronto yesterday. It's just ridiculous. Indy 500 was a great race. Sammy's big into Formula One, as many of you know. I happen to like Indy. I don't care much, to the dismay of my beautiful sister, NASCAR, but I love the Indy 500. And a young kid from Spain, first time a Spaniard's won the Indy 500, Alex Palou.
Our former mayor, Mr. Hill, is up
So
there for like his 47th
he
in a
goes
row.
to, all of them. And then just a bit of update on Waxahachie locally. Sprouts, the health food grocery store, is coming to Waxahachie.
It's a tremendous deli.
Yep. So, do they? I've never eaten
They,
it.
and I don't know, it's been a long time since I was over Fort Worth way, and I used to go regularly to one there in South Lake. They used to have a special where you went to the deli and you custom ordered a sandwich,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a bottle of water and a chips and a big old sandwich. It was $5.
Nice.
Just a heck
Well,
of a deal.
I know they had one in Flower Mound when I lived up there. But to have one here will be great. And then my wife told me, and I need to confirm it. I know if my wife told me this, she knows. It's not that I doubt her, but I haven't heard anything in city council meetings or from any councilman. I haven't asked them, but In-N-Out Burgers coming to
I
Waxahachie.
love In-N-Out.
So, and they're almost directly across the street from one another, where Sprouts will be and where In-N-Out Burgers, which is up there about where we live. And oh my goodness, it's going to be a traffic nightmare.
I used to go there in Vegas with the boys when
Yeah.
we
Well,
went.
in Vegas, it was a big deal because it was really nowhere else. And then they started growing. And
Yeah,
I mean, I'll eat a burger from In-N-Out Burgers, but it wouldn't be my favorite hamburger chain.
you can get a fried
So,
egg on it. You won't usually
well,
get the
speaking of eggs, Sonia and I ate after church on Sunday. We ate at Exquisite, which is in the new Tom Thumb area by our home,
okay.
and it was delicious.
Are they? I think they're an Oklahoma-based chain.
I know there's one in Midlothian. I don't know where they're headquartered or located, but they are excellent, excellent
Excellent,
eggs. Yeah, very good one.
excellent. Yeah.
Excellent food. Hey, Chuck, welcome to the show. So there you go. On updates, we'll have more about things that are happening in the world and here in Waxahachie on Thursday's show. Right now, we want to talk a little bit about Duck Dynasty. So, Duck Dynasty, did you watch Duck Dynasty when it was popular?
I did not.
No,
I'd say how many years was it on, and when
I
did
think
it
it was
run?
on about 8 years, and it ended
Okay,
in 2012.
okay.
But it's coming back this year.
So I saw a handful of episodes, never all the way through. I think primarily I didn't watch it because I am not a hunter and I am not really a redneck. But I will say this: would you call that really the first true reality show?
It was one of them for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, one that
Um,
certainly took off. Like, I mean, they ended up with almost 12 million viewers on A&E,
yeah. So
and
I would say this. Here's what I got out of that show: deep faith in Christianity
yes,
of the grandfather on down.
yes,
Uh, high regard for family,
yes,
and I did like the fact that these guys, and maybe this is what got them started to where they could do this show. They had invented, developed, manufactured, crafted, use whatever word you want, the all-time best duck call,
yeah.
right? And I like the fact that it kind of showed in what southern
West
state,
Monroe, Louisiana is where they
Louisiana.
were,
Okay,
where they
it,
were.
it, it just showed that rednecks, even though you would, they acted kind of hickish, but they had the wherewithal to develop, craft, manufacture, market the best duck
Yeah,
call of all time,
yeah.
and I really like that show of entrepreneurship out of
Well,
it.
there's lots to that show that is as you're putting it, way beyond duck, the actual product itself. When Sammy was probably 10 years, no, 12 years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but we were coming back to where were we going? I don't know where we were going. We were coming from Tuscaloosa to, I don't know what we were doing, but anyway, maybe we were meeting somebody or something. But anyway, we went to their store or their place,
Okay.
their store there where they made them was all one place. It was very
Yeah.
small. It was in the middle of little dumpy West Monroe, and not pretentious, nothing fancy. But they had what they did have was they had this big, massive 18-wheeler out front. It had all their big heads on it. The family and Sammy. It was still got those pictures. Sammy stood in front of them, and I took pictures. But the my wife says I'm not a hunter or a redneck, and she watched it.
I applaud you.
And let the record reflect that Jeff is using the word redneck. I'm not. Uh, I'm using esteemed hunter types. How's that?
I don't know
Matter of
what you
fact,
like.
speaking of that group, that what do you want to call it? That not industry, but that group of people in America. Jeff and I are both writing our stuff. We will have them on our newsletter, not necessarily about duck calls or rednecks per se,
Mhm.
but about blue collars, uh, blue collar workers, the need for them, the importance of them, that sort of thing. So we'll have that this Friday. If you aren't, that reminds me, if you aren't subscribing to Grit and Good News on Substack, you can go there, substack.com, search Grit and Good News, and you will find an opportunity there to subscribe for $5 a month, and you'll get all of our content, including this show,
You said a
uh,
month, not a week, right?
a month, less than
You
a
heard that.
burger.
I was just about to say that, Terry. I
Yeah,
saw something on TikTok that said that he played
yeah, they played
alongside.
Louisiana Tech. Yeah, the what I found interesting about him passing away is what his granddaughter Sadie, who was a big star on the show back then. She was a cute young lady. Now she's a woman with 3 kids, married and 3 kids. But here are a couple things she said about her grandfather. And as for me in my life, my grandfather on my dad's side, I didn't know my grandfather on my mom's side, but my grandfather on my dad's side was one of my heroes. And he died in 1976, and I was 15, but I remember him like it was yesterday and what he meant to me. And so I could picture saying or hearing myself say some things about him that Sadie says about her grandfather. Uh, she said, uh, it was his testimony that changed his life, our family's life, and thousands of others. Now he is experiencing it in the fullness, fully alive in Christ. The new has come. One of the last things he said to me was full strength ahead. Um, she said, I wrote in my post yesterday that he touched thousands, and I can confidently correct that now to millions. I can't stop. This is really cool, I think. I can't stop thinking about how he lived in the middle of nowhere, again, in West Monroe, Louisiana. If you've never been there, just go to the middle of nowhere and you'll find yourself there. He lived in a middle of nowhere in a small, humble home with no cell phone or computer, and yet his life touched millions with the hope of Jesus. Isn't that something? I think people who look forward, regardless of what age we might be, and we might be bummed, or we might be sad, or we might be discouraged, or we might be depressed that we didn't achieve what we wanted to, or what have you. But you never know when life might start in terms of your purpose.
Yeah.
And I would say a guy like Phil Robertson, he died at 79. They became popular back about 20 years ago. So he was, say, 55, maybe
Mm-hmm.
60, and that's when it all started for him. The She added, "What a life! I love the word authenticity. What a life of authenticity! What a legend!" A&E announced earlier this year that the hit show would be revived 8 years after it aired its final episode. So it was, I'm sorry, I said 2012. It went from 2012 to 2017. So A&E announced that the show would be revived 8 years later this year, after its final episode, Duck Dynasty. The revival, it's called Duck Dynasty. The revival will focus on Phil Robertson's son, Willie, his wife, Corey, their adult children, John Luke, Sadie, Will, Bella, and Rebecca, um, and their grandchildren, according to a report. The original Duck Dynasty aired for 11 seasons from 2012 to 2017. That seems more than 11 seasons, doesn't it? The show peaked at 11.8 million viewers.
When
So,
when you talked about West Monroe, you know how many different words are pronounced different ways. We
yeah,
had the great Monroe Doctrine,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
but it's just kind of a a little bit of a Louisiana way of saying
Yeah,
it.
West Monroe. Yeah.
Monroe.
And it's a town, you know, most people, I mean, we're proud to say we live in Waxahachie. I'm proud to say I'm from Dallas. You're proud to say that you're from, I don't know what you say when somebody asks you where you're from. Fort Worth.
Waxahachie.
Okay, Waxahachie. Sammy, when people say, where are you from? What do you tell them?
Texas, but I always want them to ask where you were born because it's cool to say I was born in Cleveland, even
Yeah,
though
well, you could say I'm from Texas, but I was born in Cleveland.
yeah, born in Cleveland, lived in Akron, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Which are only about 30 minutes from each other. So the show though, I guess, you know, when you think about a mega church, you know, we've been talking about Robert Morris,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who's going to stand in front of a judge soon and hear a sentence. I don't know if they'll sentence him to prison or what. That's really an interesting thought. I mean, what's he facing? But you think about all these mega churches like Kenneth Copeland up in Fort Worth and all these others, Joel Osteen, who are making millions and yet are known more for being wacky in many respects or shallow or in it for the money or in it for the fame or whatever else you want to think that they're in it for. And you think about their reach, and then you look at a guy like you look at Joel Osteen, you look at a guy like Phil Robertson, and you couldn't be any farther
Right.
on the spectrum from each other. And yet one is described with respect to his legacy as having authenticity, spreading the word of Jesus, touching people's lives, caring for people, serving people. And then people like Osteen are more known for, at least in my circles, are more known for kind of being a charade or a snake oil salesman. Uh, and then you got these boys, Phil Robertson's boys, who are spitting images of him. You know, the long beards and the Southern talk, as you put it, and knowing how to operate in the. I mean, if I had to hunt duck, have you never hunted a duck?
No, no.
You're in a boat in some cases, or you're on, you know, you're hiding,
In a
and
blind.
yeah, and you got your dog there with you, and then I don't know if you're in a blind when you're shooting ducks.
It's called duck blind.
Oh, well, what's the blind? What do you? Is it the weeds and stuff that you're down in
It's the
the?
way that you hide your boat.
So it's not like a yeah, but a
It's
duck
blind to the ducks.
and yeah, so it's a but it's different than a deer blind because deer blinds are up in trees and
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, we don't know much about hunting here, and I doubt we ever will. But the Robertsons were just a family now that's going to carry on in perpetuity, I guess, because when you got that many kids and that many grandkids, when does Duck Dynasty ever stop?
That's why it's called a dynasty.
Yeah. So when seriously, I mean, what are they going to, and I bet
As
you
long as there's viewers, the show will be
when
on.
you think about a duck call, that they've pretty much, they've gotten probably more advanced, but there's still something you put in your mouth and blow, right?
Right, right.
So it'll be interesting to see if that technology changes much over the years. I guess one of these days you can push a button and a sound will come from somewhere.
I think that's the big thing in deer hunting is putting the corn out,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got your camera and you can see when they're coming and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
It's baiting them, but
Yeah.
for you to call a duck in a fashion that the duck really thinks you're a duck and comes to you, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of impressive, really.
Yeah. I mean, it tells you how good your
How good
you
your
know,
call is.
speaking of ducks, I got on my duck hook golf hat today, but that I didn't even plan that. You like that?
I do.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it on Phil Robertson. May God rest his soul, take care of him and his
Right.
family, and that they will continue to have their success. What do you got for random thoughts for today?
You did not mention graduation like you
Oh, I
said.
didn't. Yeah. So graduation was Saturday night at 8 o'clock. My wife and I went to see our youngest, Ross, graduate from Waxahachie High School. There were 600 and I'm going to round it up to 675 kids to graduate there. Started right at 8 o'clock. I'll give the school district credit for starting right on time. And then we got into, I mean, first of all, the sound wasn't that good. It was hard to hear, really. And I don't, it's always been that way at that football stadium. I don't know why that is. But anyway, it had a lot on the agenda, on the itinerary, valedictorian, uh, what's salutatorian? I don't know if I'm saying that right, but so there were those speeches. There were speeches by the acting interim superintendent. There were speeches by the principal. There were songs. There were other things, and then you finally get to the kids. So, here I am with Sonia, and Ross is Sonia's baby, and of course we got all of our Alexander and Brooks family. Everybody's there. Lee family, because one of our daughters is married. But we're all there, scrunched in, and Ross was number 11 on the list. And I counted that ahead of time because I am not staying. Sammy's a B. I would have been gone when the S was pronounced. Matter of fact, I think I was. I can't remember. But when it hit that R, I was gone.
Let me guess. You had the aisle seat?
No,
Oh,
because
dude.
no, because we got there.
Excuse me.
We got
Excuse
there.
me.
Yeah, we got there at like 7:15 for an 8 o'clock, and we sat. Sonia found the seats, and we sat what we could get, and it was pretty low, but it wasn't on no backs to the seats.
Okay.
But it was I know Sonia stayed the whole time. They actually had not a fireworks show. You know what they had? A drone show. And the drone show had really cool designs up in the sky. I don't know how a drone does all that, but it was pretty impressive. We could hear some fireworks because there were some of those, but not like they have in past years. But the drones were incredible. Uh, so anyway, that's the last one until
Very
the
cool.
next one up for the Brooks Alexander Lee family is little Beckham. Beckham is going to be one next in July the 11th. So I don't know. We were talking the other night about whether or not I'll make it. So he will graduate in 17 years, right? Yeah. So 17 years from now, I will be 81. I should make it.
I hope so.
Yeah. So we'll be there to see Beckham. Samuel will definitely be there to see. Samuel might even have. Well, you won't have some graduating by then, but you'll have some in the pipeline, as it were, right? So there were graduations all over the place, and we want to congratulate all those kids, all those students who are they got I don't know, it's like Sammy said, it's profound for Sammy to say it at his age, but to recognize what they got or what you got when you got it, and particularly when it comes to your teenage years, your early years, like in the 70s for me, I, these kids don't know it, but they got the world by the tail, and that is make the most of it.
Yeah.
Beverly says, do they still have the all-night lock-in for graduates? I'm not sure. I don't. Sonia may know.
I remember having that. Yeah.
Well, you know what we did? When I graduated from a school in Los Angeles. We went to Disneyland.
Cool.
But I know they have something, but I'm not sure what it is. But I will say it was a lot of fun, but it would not have been fun had I had to stay there for another 2.5, 3 hours. No way. I'd have been a bit ill-tempered. So let's hear your random thoughts for this day.
Um, I used this one in my eulogy for the late great Tom Sopkowitz up in Minnesota last week. Don't put up the bats until the last out. He learned that as a bat boy.
Don't put up the bats to the last out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it ain't over till it's over, right?
Yeah.
Till the fat lady sings.
And this one was from my dad. And so I've had 3 people die within 20 days, all contemporaries of mine. I'm lucky I'm still alive, I guess. Well, we all are lucky
Yeah.
to still be alive. And he used to say, they're hoeing in our row now.
Wow.
Okay.
That's what the obit,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you grow older and you start looking at obits, they're in your row, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And my dad also used to like to say, now understand me and don't misunderstand me.
Mhm.
And he also liked to say, go peddle your papers. And have I told you lately that I love you?
Yeah. That's a
Lately.
song.
Lately.
Yeah, that's a song.
He had it
Haven't-
before
I
as a
think it
song.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Memorial Day. So we get a 3-day weekend,
All right.
the last Monday of every May. That Monday, I'm sorry, that weekend is associated with not only Memorial Day, but as we talked about, the Indy 500. NASCAR has its big race. There's a musical, not a musical, but there's a concert in DC, Memorial Day concert. There are things across the country that are recognized, that are done. And like with any other holiday, or birthday or something big that happens. I'm sure it's the same way in other countries, but Americans, we've gotten used to celebrating something and then Veterans Day. We have a big day for veterans, and
Right.
then next week comes, and do we even think of veterans? Do we even talk about veterans? Most of us don't. It's a one and done every year kind of thing. I'd say for most Americans, unless you're a veteran yourself or your family, family of
Mhm.
veterans, or in this case, somebody who passed away as a result of their service. But Memorial Day has significant meaning in this country. And I don't have anyone in I have members of my family who served in the military. Grandfather at Pearl Harbor, my 40-year-old, soon to be 41-year-old son served in combat in Kuwait and Iraq, Slaughter City, it's called, but they call it Slaughter City. But neither one of them died as a result of their military service. But that's what Memorial Day is about.
Yeah.
A lot of Americans don't really understand that Veterans Day is the day in November. I think it's the second Saturday or weekend in November.
For
That's
all veterans,
Yeah, for all veterans. So
as
whether you're
opposed to
alive,
Memorial
yeah.
Day.
So, but you'll see some people uh, send a thank you to a living veteran on Memorial
Mhm.
Day,
Mhm.
which I'm sure no one begrudges that, but it's not what the day is about.
Right.
And
Right.
so Memorial Day is about those who literally gave it all. So Sammy's nodding his head like he probably knows. Yeah. So Memorial Day in May is for those who lost their life as a result of their service. Veterans Day is to recognize all veterans.
Right.
Um, and there's equal amount of things that go on that day and that weekend as well. But Memorial Day is Veterans Day. I don't think is a holiday, is it?
It's one of your second class holidays.
Yeah, like
Banks,
Good Friday.
schools, post office,
Yeah, those close.
all the
Yeah,
feds.
but most businesses are open and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. But with Memorial Day, I would say it's one of the major holidays.
Oh, it's definitely
So Jeff wrote a poem um, that's available to you as of today.
as of today on
Yep, and
Substack.
I have a column in Substack and our Grit and Good News about Memorial Day and what it means. You want to read yours, or you want to share any part of it?
Sure. And one thing that I enjoyed when I looked at yours this weekend,
Yeah,
and we have a topic. What was the specific topic officially called?
reflection on America's heroes.
Okay. And we kind of went the same direction. And I never want to see yours before I write it,
Right.
mine. And so, Sam, we still doing my poem at the end? Did you get mine? You want two poems today?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
A reflection on heroes. There are no living heroes. What says you is the deal? Settle down. There is no rule. This is simply how I feel. Here is why I feel that heroes must die. Many so called heroes turn out to be big zeros. Football coach Bill the Tuna Parcells quipped, "Put away the anointing oil." He meant put the brakes on the story until the achievement of full glory. I'm rarely impressed by celebrity, as opposed to people you rarely see. I like my heroes unsung, no matter if old or young. If you shy away from being praised, it's generally because of the way you were raised by parents whose distinctiveness is teaching kids respectfulness. So I'm not naming heroes' names. That's not remotely my game, because a hero to me may be as far from one to thee. I feel no need to defend my choice, but I'd love to hear your voice. Tell me the who's and whys for you. I surely like to know them too. When your hero goes off to the pearly gate, only our Maker will determine the fate. The hero's afterworld will now begin. Hopefully, hopefully heaven lets the hero in.
Right.
But when I read that to my wife, she goes, "I gotta be dead. What about the guy that comes and pulls somebody out of a burning
Mm-hmm.
car and all that?" I go, "Well, I mean, I guess I admire that, but I don't know. I just um until they're dead, and you know how their life panned out. What about that guy that pulled the person out of the car and then he goes and robs a bank the next day? You know,
Yeah,
And you went the same direction because to you the heroes were strictly involved in military, but again, not just veterans, but dead.
yes,
You know,
that's an excellent poem, and I get what you're saying there, and I also get why Rita and others may say, well, wait a minute, what about the hero that, that saved the kid from going through the frozen lake or something like that? But you're right, you don't know. It was an event in their life. You don't know what their life
right?
is. And so when we think about those who we honor on Memorial Day, and some are family members watch this show, uh, Chuck says with respect to the holidays, they're called red letter days for federal types. But for those people like my grandfather was a hero in my mind because of his service. He didn't die because of his service, but he lived his whole life in
Hmm.
accordance to that service. Because once he got out of the military, he then committed himself to, in this case, blue collar work, spent his whole life doing that, died doing that, and was an honorable man, much like a Phil Robertson, as I mentioned earlier. Not as prolific, so to speak, but when we talk about Memorial Day as a day upon which we do recognize and we do honor people, those are, and many of them, most of them are nameless. We don't know who these people are, but
Yeah.
we know they died for a cause far greater than themselves and a cause for which we now benefit, from which we now
The tomb
benefit.
of the unknown soldier.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been to Arlington National, have you been there, Jeff?
I have not.
So one of the most humbling, quality, cool, if you want to use that word, incredible, awesome places I've ever been is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier or Arlington Cemetery, where every day, every hour for decades, young men, uh, young men in the military walk 21 steps back and forth in front of a tomb of somebody they don't know, in an inspiring setting, regardless of the weather. And I always went on when I lived in DC. That was my church service, was to get on the metro, the little train, the subway, go to
Hmm.
Arlington and watch them. And sometimes there were lots of people in because they have stands, bleachers where you can sit. They're not bleachers like you'd see at a ball game. They're bleachers that fit into the ambiance of the cemetery. But you just sit there, and you could sit there as long as you wanted to or as short as you wanted to. Some days I was the only one.
So how does
Um,
the 21 tie into the 21 gun
21 gun
salute?
salute. Yeah, well, it's the same.
Where
I'm
does
not,
that number 21 come from? You know?
that's Chuck may know that, and I've known it before. Yeah, 9/11 we saw, he wrote. But we I've known that before. It's a good thing to update everybody on is what the 21 gun salute and the 21 steps means. But those dudes, I mean, and I've 21 seconds, they stop, they stand still for 21 seconds, then they turn and they go 21 steps. And when they stop, they click their heels, got metal on them, and it clicks real loud. And they do it when they're changing the guard, which is every 30 minutes. They are in unison. I mean, it is so perfect. And you're just sitting there. If you don't know it, your mouth's wide open, like this is amazing.
Mm-mm.
But those 21 steps are, I mean, they do it. I mean, it's amazing to me. And when it's snowing, it's raining, tornadoes, hurricane, whatever comes there, they go through it. But they're there to honor someone who gave their life in service.
Yeah.
And those young men have to go through a lot to be able to become a guard of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. But Memorial Day, we have a number of people who served in the military here. I don't know. I'm sure I know families that lost someone while in combat or while in the service. Uh, we have a lot of veterans in our community, but I think we ought to do our best, maybe even better in the years to come in recognizing these people. And we have some of them coming to the sun from time to time, men, and they're 90 something years old and slow and methodical. Always got on their military hat of some sort. But I just say, if you want to know how we feel about it, check out Grit and Good News on Substack. We shared a lot. Jeff just read his, but we shared a lot about why we should honor these folks. Anything else on that?
That'll get
Nope.
us.
All right. He said, Sammy, you're included on this one. So we're going to talk about, and I know some of our, I don't know about the ladies on here, although there are ladies who are totally into sports, my wife not being one of them. My wife is so tired of me watching hockey and basketball every night for the last, I don't know how long it's been hockey, like tonight, hockey and basketball, and they'll be on at the same time tonight again. So I'll be going back and forth like I always do. Um, why did I say? Oh, so we're going to talk about some sports here, and we're going to talk about the GOAT in every major sport. So let's begin with
And you had
let's.
5 of them. Was soccer the 5th? Or Rita
No,
thought it
I
might be the
wouldn't Pele.
PGA.
Well, PGA we didn't include, but let's we can't include the PGA, although it's a slam dunk as I'm wearing. Um, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, PGA.
Soccer.
uh, Other than Pele, Maradona, I don't know. Messi, okay, yeah. I don't know any. Or Ronaldo. I know 4 people that play soccer.
You know, out of all of these 5 that we're going to talk about, I'm telling you, Pele's the most important of them. I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. You know how we've developed into this life where all the kids play soccer, okay? And they don't grow up playing soccer all their life, but they all play as kids.
hmm
Soccer was not a sport of any interest in our country until 1975
Because of Pele.
because of Pele when he joined the New York Cosmos in the professional soccer
Yeah.
league
Major.
and
Yeah.
MLS. And this is the biggest marketing genius I've ever seen. Up in Minnesota, the Vikings and the Twins played in the old Met Stadium, which looked exactly like Arlington Stadium.
Yeah.
Okay, open air, but not all the way enclosed all the way around. And they decided to make and tailgating is huge up there.
Right.
Okay. So they made this deal for the Minnesota Sidekicks. And I saw Pele when he came. And the only reason I saw him is they had a deal that $5 student tickets and parking for everybody was free. Okay. And that's when you could bring a little grill out there.
hmm
And we'd bring our grills and we'd bring our coolers of beer. It was legal drinking. Uh, happened in 1973.
Yeah.
The year I turned 18 on July 12th. The law went into effect August 1st. And so this was 2 years later. And we'd bring a cooler of beer and we'd cook out hot dogs. And we didn't know much about soccer at the beginning of the year, but we knew it by the end of the year. And that stadium, which held about 48,000,
Cool.
it was full every
Yeah.
cotton
I mean,
picking
Pele
game.
is what put soccer. He put soccer on the map.
Yeah,
Soccer for me personally. I mean, I'll watch what are they? The World, whatever they call them.
World Cup.
World Cup. Yeah, I'll watch that stuff. But it's just I can't. It's like that old joke says, if I wanted to watch uh 10 guys do something for 2 hours and not score, I'd go to the bar with my buddies.
See,
So
you know what soccer's missing?
what?
It's missing skates, ice, and full
Yeah,
contact.
there you go. Yeah,
That's what you
well,
need for soccer.
yeah, and so
And sticks.
I just, but anyway, so we're gonna stick. We'll just
All right.
agree. Sammy probably says who for soccer.
I'll go Ronaldo.
Or no, okay, so I say Pele, but you wouldn't know Pele if he
I
slapped you
don't.
in the head. All right, so let's go to the probably the most difficult one, and that is baseball. So
It's a,
baseball to be the GOAT in baseball, um, you have to either, I mean, if you're a pitcher, and I'm not going to separate a pitcher, non-pitcher. I'm just saying that the GOAT of baseball. I mean, you could be a pitcher and not ever swing a bat in baseball, and then of course you have all non-pitchers. So, any thoughts on the GOAT for baseball?
Yeah, I'm going to give you 6, and I'm going to give you in each of these categories. I actually have one that's still playing, and I'll
Right.
start with him. Otani is going to be a goat.
Yeah.
Okay, but historically, you got to go with Henry Aaron for what he did, and
Let me
for
get that off.
the the the, the turmoil that he went through being a
Yeah.
black man doing that.
Yeah.
Um, I really want Nolan Ryan on that
Yeah.
list. Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. the Say Hey Kid Willie Mays, and Cal Ripken Jr., the Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I should probably have Babe Ruth on there, but I guess he's so those are mine.
Okay.
You can pick from any of those.
All right, Sammy.
I would have to say Babe Ruth, but baseball, I can't think of anything else
Yeah.
off the top of my
I,
head.
I mean, I didn't really care for him as a guy, a personal, personally, but I think Pete Rose, Pete Rose is synonymous with baseball in my opinion, and whether he gets into the Hall of Fame, we'll see. But I think you're right about Ohtani. I mean, here's a guy, I don't know how old he is, but he's not 30. If
Hmm.
he's 30, he's not much over 30. I don't even think he's 30. But he's now going to be back on the mound at some point, probably this year. He's throwing pitches, can throw, can pitch like crazy, and I mean he just in 2 games this past weekend, 2 straight games as a leadoff hitter, he jacked up leadoff home runs.
He got one
Uh,
last night and put
did,
him at 19 for the year. I looked at it. I think it's 54 games into the year, which gets you right
yeah,
at the 162, just about.
for RBI
So
or
no,
home run.
19 home runs, a third of the way through the year, on
Yeah, so
schedule for
it's 60.
57.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got you. So I think Babe Ruth. Yeah, Babe Ruth was amazing. The issue, I mean, you have to say, well, it's according to their impact at their time in the
Yeah,
game.
right.
All right, so there you go for baseball. Let's go to basketball.
I got Michael Jordan, LeBron, Larry Bird, and Bill Russell, and so LeBron is the only one. He's inactive. You don't like those?
Mm-mm.
All right.
Who do you
Well,
have,
what do I
Sam?
Well,
know?
no, I don't like. It's not that I don't like those. You miss somebody that should be on that
He's
list.
gonna say Steph Curry.
Steph
Ugh.
Curry.
First of all, he's a liberal.
Steph Curry.
I'm
Um,
aware of him.
Chuck says Nolan
Yeah.
Ryan, Babe Ruth. Yep. I don't know what Terry thinks, or Sonia, or Kennedy, or Beverly, but right, Sammy. Who?
Steph Curry.
The goat?
Steph Curry is the
You,
GOAT of
I'll
basketball
How many
raise you
years has he
better than
played in
that.
the league?
since he was drafted in 2008, I think.
Probably.
And I mean, he's not switched teams. That's not why he's a GOAT, but part of the reason. But Steph Curry, I watched a debate the other day on this YouTube channel, and this one dude out of all these people said Steph Curry is the GOAT. That's not why I think it, but I'm gonna be in that minority and say
I
that.
don't. I don't think there's statistically nobody, nobody touches what Jordan did. Now you could
Right.
say LeBron has more points. You could say Kareem had second most points. But LeBron has played like I don't know how many 5 or 6 more years than
Yeah.
Jordan has played. Michael Jordan, when it comes to a sport, I don't think there's any more definitive GOAT than Michael Jordan. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to talk PGA. All right.
Wait, so
So
y'all both have Michael Jordan?
now I have Michael. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so what about PGA, Jeff?
I didn't write him down, but we talked about it this morning. I'm going with Tiger, Jack Nicklaus, and Byron Nelson.
Yeah. Um, again, it's generational, so it's a statistically, I think I know Jack and Tiger are neck and neck. Tiger did himself in when it comes to having set records that no one will ever touch in golf because of his
Right.
accidents and his misdeeds. But I'm going to go Tiger.
Yeah, Tiger. I
Tiger,
don't.
Tiger, Tiger for me. I like, yeah, Dirk in basketball, but Tiger for me is made a great athlete because of his story of redemption. That is
Yeah.
to come back from what he's come back from.
We do like a
Yeah,
fallen hero, for lack
yeah,
of a better.
yeah, we do.
We do.
So that's why I like
I
Tiger.
have a question for y'all. Basketball. The GOAT point guard. Who is the best point guard in y'all's opinion
Well,
of all time?
I'm going to say Magic Johnson.
Okay.
Who are you saying?
I mean, it's between Magic and Steph, but it's Steph.
Well, okay. If I said the best
Well, you
water
already
boy,
got your step in, so
what's
now
the
you're
best?
going to a further
The go to
qualifier.
Well,
water
I was
boy.
just going
Who
to
are you going to say the go to water boy? Steph.
no,
Let's say who are the goat of whistling? Steph.
no. I'm just y'all. He didn't have it in his list,
Well,
but if so, I
Michael
wanted to
Jordan.
know.
Michael Jordan's son.
And you think Magic is better than Steph
Oh, you didn't see Michael play.
and
Uh,
Magic?
I'm sorry,
I've watched
Magic.
his highlights, but I
Magic
didn't see it
Johnson
play.
was the quintessential point guard,
They didn't
Okay.
and
call him
Larry,
Magic for nothing.
and Larry Bird was up there as well. All right, one more sport.
All right.
Football. Yeah,
Chuck,
see,
no
Chuck.
Chuck.
Yeah,
No Chuck.
way to go, Chuck. All
No.
right, football. What do you got,
You
Jeff?
know, this is a weird first choice, but I went with the 5 rings of Mean Joe Green to get you somebody who was not in quote unquote a skilled player. Steelers don't win those Super Bowls
Yeah.
without him. Tom Brady, Jim Brown, love me my Jim Brown, Joe Namath for what he did for the game and to actually lead to the AFL NFL merger was pretty big. And then you got to go. I double checked the all-time rushing leaders. Emmett took over
Yeah.
for Walter Sweetness Payton.
Yeah.
And that's a great name.
Yeah.
They don't call you Sweetness if you're a jerk. I'm telling you that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Frank Gore, who I don't know much about, and they say
Yeah.
that he got most of his yards by falling forward at the end of a tackle. Barry Sanders and Adrian Peterson. So I just go Emmett and Peyton. I'm just going to go the first two on
Sammy?
that.
My goat in
Football.
football, I don't remember the year, but Atlanta Falcons looking good, up 28-3. Next thing you know, 40 minutes later, I'm crying in my bed, and that was when I realized Tom Brady is and will always be the
Very
goat
good.
of football.
Joe Montana.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm Tom Brady. I mean, the kicker for me was that Tom Brady, unlike Bill Belichick. So Bill Belichick is they might be called one of the greatest coaches ever. Bill Belichick never, until he never coached without Tom Brady, until he
Right.
actually coached without Tom Brady is what I'm trying to say. Did we figure out that how great Brady was? We also figured out how great Brady was because he won 6 or 7 rings, and he went to a new team and led them to the Super Bowl. So when a player goes somewhere and does equally well, to me that's a sign of a goat. And likewise, whenever a coach, in this case, or a player who goes somewhere else and fails, it means his greatness was bolstered by somebody else. Bill Belichick has not been a very good coach since Tom Brady left the scene, and we'll see what he does in North Carolina.
Right.
But Tom Brady, you could put him with most any team, and him improve them
And he
dramatically.
wasn't even a first-round pick.
No, he's a
Right?
seventh. He
Yeah.
was a 6th round, I think, or 7th. All right, so there you have it. Uh, Terry thinks Joe Montana. He certainly was one of them, for sure. One of the potential goats. All right.
Who, Steph?
No, Joe Montana. Steph's a weenie. All right, ready for your
It,
column?
it's a short
I
one,
mean
but
your poem.
short one, but a good one.
Let's hear
It
it.
was written on Christmas Day of 2021 when I first met the priest who'd been there for about 6 weeks, 6 months, and I was telling him how I really enjoyed the fact that he gave a very nice homily without ever appearing to have any notes, and he wasn't just wandering
Yeah.
around lost. And it goes like this. Today I paid a man a compliment. His reply was quick, and I love what it meant. He said, "It's a gift." This response gave me a lift. No hemming or hawing or fake compliment denying. No, "Oh, you're too kind," ever crossed his mind. Instead, he passed the praise to the Almighty One, knowing that that's where his talents had truly begun. God passes out gifts even before we're born. We can use them or lose them and be subject to scorn. Make the most of your gifts while deflecting away praise. Let admirers know that is simply how you were made.
Very good.
Thank
Yep,
you.
for sure. All right, it is time for this day in history. So we all had a pretty good last time we did it last Thursday.
Hmm.
We had a pretty good run at it. So let's see what we got. Today is May the 27th.
I limped home to a 4-4. Good luck getting there, guys.
All right,
Here we
let's
go.
hear it.
255 people were killed when an F4 tornado struck St. Louis, Missouri, and East St. Louis, Illinois. I pulled this one out of thin air. I couldn't believe it.
1956.
1976.
1896.
Well, you did have to pull that one out of.
You got that right?
Well, no, I didn't get the
And you
bonus.
got
I just pulled out
Oh,
1898 is what I put. I don't know.
dang.
New York's Chrysler Building, at the time the world's tallest building, open to the public.
I'm gonna say it's 1961.
1954.
1930.
Oh,
Wow.
dang.
The newly completed Golden Gate Bridge connected San Francisco and Marin County, California, was open to pedestrian traffic. Vehicles were crossing the next day.
88.
88.
No. 1958.
1937. And now that I think about that, that was probably part of FDR's
Probably.
public projects. But what they're talking about, you've got pedestrian
Yeah.
walkways on the outsides going each direction and then
Mhm.
cars in the middle.
Yeah.
It's really something.
It is.
Dory Miller, Dorie, a cook aboard the USS West Virginia, became the first Black American to receive the Navy Cross for displaying extraordinary courage and disregard for his own personal safety during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, where your grandfather died.
Yes. No, served.
Served.
Didn't die.
Didn't die.
No. 1946.
49.
45.
42.
42.
Pearl Harbor was in 41.
Yeah.
They gave him that right away. Okay.
1 and 3.
A bomb set by the Sicilian Mafia exploded outside the Uffizi, Uffizi gallery in Florence, Italy. 5 people were killed, 48 wounded. Dozens of centuries-old paintings were destroyed or damaged.
51.
I'm going to go up to the 70s and say 77.
93.
Man, we're getting whooped. How many more?
Bad.
2.
Okay.
Nobel Prize-winning author Alexander Solzhenitsyn, do you like that?
Yeah.
Returned to Russia to the emotional cheers of thousands after spending 2 decades in exile.
2004.
2007.
94.
That's insane.
All right. That's all.
Is that it?
Michael Fortier, the government's star witness in the Oklahoma City bombing case, was sentenced to 12 years in prison after apologizing for not warning anybody about the deadly plot.
It's an amazing story. Sonny and I watched the documentary of the bombing in McVeigh and all these derelicts like him. I'm going to say, I think it was 2000.
2003.
98.
Yeah.
We didn't even
So
get
what
to
was
bombing
the, what was the deal? He
95.
was kind of in on it and he knew about
And
it?
he knew, and he didn't. It's one of those deals where he knew what was going on and didn't bother to tell anybody. And so he was
And did
charged.
McVeigh rat him out? Or
No, I don't. McVeigh was. I don't think McVeigh wrote him, ratted him out. I think evidence ratted him out. But if you get a chance to see that documentary, you ought to watch it. It's amazing documentary. Speaking of something else, Sonia and I watched recently. I told you earlier, Conclave, which is a movie about the Catholic Church,
Right.
and ironically, the timing is quite amazing. But the Conclave, I can see where it made the Catholic Church angry because it did, and it's a relatively new film. Very good film. Very good. So thank you for all of that. Sammy, how'd you do? Not so good? All right, there you have it for Grit and Good News on this Tuesday, May the 27th, 2025. We will be back on Thursday to spend more time with you on new subjects. Again, we are our content outside of this show is on Substack.com, where for $5 a month you get a lot of stuff that a lot of content that really our approach is to say we're going to look at these things in a practical, logical way where we ask why is somebody doing something as opposed to just hammering away at what they did. We'll get those shots in as well, but it's about trying to understand why people, those we like, in my case Donald Trump, those I don't like, and anybody on the left in terms of Congress, and other people about why they do what they do and what is it doing to our country. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff, but thank you for being with us.
And you're going to get that Mondays and Fridays.
Yes.
You got us here live Tuesdays and Thursdays. And just like you can go back and get live versions of our show, these Substacks will just keep building up on Substack pretty much forever. And we now have 4 of them. No, today's 5th.
Today's the 5th one.
Today's number 5.
Right.
Okay. So Please remember to make it a great day and put a smile on somebody's face. Boom.